All right. I know, I know, I know. I know. I know it's +1. I know. I know it's +1. I know. All right, all right. We'll add the +1. All right. For the record, this is not my fault. This is actually Jay's fault. This is Jay's fault. I was at Jay's birthday event a second ago. Online birthday event. All right, all right, all right, all right. If you guys have a second, go through Jay's stream, say happy birthday to him. It's his birthday. Yeah. All right, everybody. Let's get the stream started. Let's get the stream started. Jaren's Rambo says, "What do you do that makes you late?" I was at Jay's stream just now, and I had a lot of trouble joining Jay's stream, which with audio, which which then led into. I mean, I guess I could have left a second ago, but you don't want to be super rude. You want to be super rude, you know. All right. Oh man, now they're arguing about the gorilla situation. They're arguing about the gorilla situation. God damn it. That would be fun to talk about. That's okay. 100 humans can beat a gorilla, by the way. That is a thing. Yeah, I know. Stormy says, I can't even imagine Morj being late. This hair suits you, I can't lie. Thank you. I feel like the hair is finally, I feel like it's happening. Can we discuss that really quick before we get to the actual episode stuff? I feel like the hair is finally coming together. Morj, it's +1, and also you need to add a curl cream to your hair after a shower to define your curls better. I have the same hair type as you. Oh my god. So my girlfriend, she tells me that all the time. She's made me start putting oil in it. Made me like, it's helpful, obviously, but she's like, one, you need more conditioner, and then two, you put oils in it. It's complicated because I don't really want that curly hair, but otherwise it just looks really frizzy or whatever. Knut Worgen says, "You gonna go first against the gorilla?" Okay, so here's the situation with the humans versus the gorilla. Um, the gorilla wins if you have humans' brains turned on, like if you have natural human instincts turned on. Because once you just see a gorilla murdering people left and right, most people are just gonna run away. Like they're not gonna keep trying to engage with the gorilla. But if it's like The Last of Us, where everybody is like a fucking like their brain is turned off and they're just in it to kill, right? No anything on, 100 humans would overwhelm a gorilla. It would literally be just a pile of fucking 100 bodies. Like even if the gorilla kills 50 people, it's ultimately going to be like a pile of 50 people just all stockpiled on top of the gorilla till they suffocate. Like animals aren't fucking invincible. Like all the arguments I see for the gorilla basically explain why a gorilla would murder any individual human effortlessly, which is true. But 100 is a lot. Like a human adult, if a human adult had to fight 100 children, and the children's brains were turned off, so they're just gonna swarm no matter what, and they're not gonna feel fear or anything like that, you would be overwhelmed by 100. Like they would ultimately fucking smother you. It would be too many bodies. The simplest way I can put it is that a gorilla would need to, like, let's say a gorilla can kill a human in a single swing, which is likely true as long as it's a good swing, right? A gorilla can kill a human in a single swing. Let not even say likely true. It's 100% true. A gorilla still needs to swing 100 times while being smothered. That is a lot of stamina. Like it is a lot. Like at a certain point, numbers do matter. The simplest way I could put it is like if you as a person went to go to like a boxing class or something, you will quickly realize 100 good punches is tiring. It is very, very tiring. Like 100 good punches, not like just like lollipop punches or whatever, but like 100 good punches, it is tiring. Gorillas have less stamina than even humans do, than even the average human does. So it's a complicated question. I think if humans have their brains turned on, then humans lose because you just wouldn't have the coordination and everything like that to properly do it. And like people have self-preservation instincts. So you're not going to be going in and all in like kamikaze, like let's all just fucking swarm dogpile the gorilla. That's not going to happen. So I think people would get picked off one by one or run away. I think it's not doable. But if it's, again, if you turn brains off, then yeah, 100 human bodies is too much. A gorilla can't fucking bench press their way out of 100 human bodies just dogpiling them. Even if like 50 humans die in the process. New X7 says I prefer the old hair. GDN says you look like you're balding. Fuck, really? I think it looks good. I think I look good. Hi, thanks for the 5. Here's a better question. How many clones of yourself could beat a gorilla? It comes down to if am I allowed to have weapons? If I'm allowed to have weapons, then it's a totally different conversation. If my brain is on, then an infinite number of me would still never kill a gorilla because there's no individual clone of me that would just be like, I'm gonna take one for the team. I'll be the first person up there to go die to a gorilla. There's none of me are gonna do that. It's not gonna happen. So if brains are turned off and like your own self-preservation is turned off, then probably like I do think like somewhere in the 100 range would do it. Vinny, thanks for the 3. You should play Expedition 33, Craziest Story. So is that like Baldur's Gate? Ender Hanami says Morj shows up late and it ends up being 99 versus 1, thus costing the humans their victory. That'd be really funny. They saying Cole can handle it. Endercraft7393 says, but a gorilla would also run away from 100 guys, LMAO. It's not a predator. That's actually very, very true. That's very, very true. A lot of people just leave out certain things with the gorilla conversation. Like, at some point, the gorilla is going to get fucking hurt in their eyes. They're going to get hurt in their fucking groin and stuff. Like, a gorilla is still like a living fucking thing that can be like, if it was 100 humans versus an elephant, then it's over. But a gorilla is still like it can still be harmed in a lot of ways. It can still be suffocated. Like, things can happen like with just a straight up dog pile of humans. Gorillas can lift about 10,000 tons, way more than humans. I don't think that's true. Gorilla bench press. I feel like it's 2,000-ish. Yeah, like, it's not, they're not fucking Superman. It's like 2,000 pounds. That's not, like, it's still a lot, but it's not 10,000. 100 humans versus an elephant, I don't think 100 humans can win. I think, again, if you got into the zombie mode, pure swarm situation, I think there's a possibility. Here's the thing. I've watched videos of like a pack of like 20 lionesses mostly, and like a lion or two or whatever, trying to take down one elephant. And it was very difficult for them. They even didn't really do it. So I don't know if humans could. I don't think that's possible. 10 chimps versus 100 humans? That's complicated. 10,000 tons. Yeah, gorillas can lift 10,000 tons. Yeah, let's get Streamlights up to 50 real quick. All you need is one elephant gun in between those elephants' eyes. Gorilla can lift a car off you then when you need help. Yeah, it could. Elephants and hippos are the only two animals that don't run and are big and strong enough to live. Yeah, gorillas would run. So like, this is an interesting fact about like polar bears. So like, polar bears are the largest and strongest land carnivore. But apparently, like, in recorded encounters between polar bears and like grizzly bears, polar bears tend to run away even though they are larger, because polar bears they grow up with instincts that tell them not to waste calories on pointless encounters, because calories are so hard to come by in their Arctic and habitat, right? So it's interesting. Like, if you add in like natural psychology and stuff, like, yeah, the gorilla would probably run from 100 humans. The polar bear would probably run from 100 humans. Things like that matter. One Sekiro Guardian Ape versus 100 humans, though. The Sekiro Guardian Ape killed me. I don't even fuck the man. The Sekiro Guardian Ape. That's such a special memory for me because like Sekiro was my first Souls game, and the Guardian Ape was the first enemy that I came across that like I knew I could do it. Like I knew it would be doable if I tried enough times. Like I knew that logically in the back of my head, but I did hit a point where it genuinely felt like I don't know if like I couldn't imagine myself beating the ape. That's how daunting it felt. Like after the first dozen something attempts or whatever, maybe after the first hour of fighting it, I think I hit a point where it was like I know I can, like logically, if you try it enough times, you will eventually beat it. That applies for any video game thing. But I was like, I couldn't envision myself beating it. Any other boss that I'd come across up into the game till that point, like Butterfly, Genichiro, whoever, it was like this is difficult, man. This is gonna be a real mountain to climb. The Guardian Ape, I hit a point where it was like, I know I can climb this mountain, but I can't actually imagine how it would happen, like how everything would come together for me to do it. I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't. That was the first Dark Souls From Software boss where I was like, I can't envision the victory happening or whatever. I can't imagine the version of like what it will eventually take for me to have beaten this. But in the end, it didn't take that long. I think it took Guardian Ape took a little bit over 2 hours, I believe. It wasn't the hardest boss in the game for me, even. The hardest boss was I guess mild Sekiro spoilers. Sekiro came out, what, 10 years ago? It's fine to spoil a little bit. The hardest boss for me was not the Guardian Ape. It was the fucking Guardian Ape and his fucking girlfriend. The round 2. That was the hardest boss in the game for me. I'm still surprised when people say that, like, Ishin is the hardest for them or Demon of Hatred. I mean, it makes sense because those are the first ones that I think of. But the fucking Headless Ape and his wife, I never want to fight that boss again. I also think it's the worst boss in From Software history besides Beta Chaos. Not really an ostrich. Welcome to Pirate King tier. All right, let me give a big shout out. First of all, thank you very, very much for the support. And second, the Pirate King tier, I'm pitching this really poorly. Basically, every month I record an hour-and-a-half long podcast for Pirate King tier members, and it is one in which I answer every single question that Pirate King tier members submit to me, and I answer it fairly in depth. So if you're a Pirate King member, every month, like the submissions actually for this month just went up, you go, you submit whatever questions, whatever topics you just want me to discuss, and it can be not One Piece related. So this is a podcast that I go into lots of things that aren't always One Piece related. Some stuff is One Piece, a lot of other anime, other manga, movies, TV shows, NBA, video games, real life stuff, my past, my personal history to some degree. That's my most free-flowing podcast. If you want to be a Pirate King tier member and support me through that, then you get access to all the previous Pirate King podcasts, and you can put your submissions in for the new one. And I'll be recording that this week. Frozen camera. Shit. How'd the camera freeze? And why is it frozen on my hair looking like that? God damn it. Why did the camera freeze? Is it good now? Let me try this again. Hold on. Is this working? No. God damn it, man. Alright, hold on. Let me delete this. Okay. This is working now. Should be good. Sorry, y'all. I don't know what happened with the camera there. Sometimes stuff just happens, you know, and we don't know why. All right. All good? I didn't play Dark Souls 2? Yeah, I didn't play Dark Souls 2. Yeah. I guess we're good. Think we're good? All right. Okay. So, real question. Real question. First, wait, let me catch up on these. Hi, thanks for the 100 Morges versus one Wano video. How long to finish it? If it was 100 Morges, oh, we would be done so fast. We'd be done so fast. We'd each do like a paragraph, and then it'd be over in like a day or something like that. That'd be so quick if there were 100 Morges. Julian Crispell, thanks for the 100 Jinbei versus one Kaido. Who wins? I think 100 Jinbei. Shit. Yeah, 100 Jinbei should take one Kaido. I definitely think 100 Jinbei will take one Kaido. Jolly D Joestar, thanks for the 2. What about the Ape live action Jungle Book? Yeah, I think the Ape live action Jungle Book would definitely kill 100 humans. I think that definitely happens, as long as they're unarmed. I think the thing about the gorilla that people just are not considering is the gorilla has to swing, like, it's not about would the people, like, it's not about the fact that the gorilla can kill humans very easily, right? The gorilla would still need to swing with some degree of force 100 times while being pestered. 100 times is a lot. Like, I just think that people don't recognize the level of conditioning that would require, that a gorilla is not just going to randomly have. Especially considering humans have better endurance than fucking gorillas. And I guarantee if, like, the average person went out right now and was told to break, like, have you ever had to break, like, one of those, like, karate wooden boards or whatever? Those karate wooden boards are generally very flimsy, actually. Like, they're made to be able to be easily broken. You just need a solid hit. Like, they're very easy. Like, children can do it, right? It's still, but it's not so easy that you can't just do it, like, with a flick, okay? It still takes a punch. So even if for the gorilla, we are a bunch of human boards, a gorilla is not randomly going to be able to do, like, 100 good punches or 100 good swings. It's too much. Gorillas don't have that level of endurance. It's not about human strength. It's literally just asking a gorilla, can you do this 100 times in a row while being mobbed? That's not a thing that's in a gorilla's natural ability set. It never has to do that shit in the wild. It's not physically built to do something like that. But the ape from the live action Jungle Book is so big that I don't think it would take, like, it would take so little exertion for it can take out multiple humans in one go. Like, it could take, like, several humans out in one go. So for that, you're probably asking it to do physically exert itself maybe like 20 to 30 good times to kill 100 humans. That's very doable. And it's going to be less affected by humans swarming it. I got to power scale real life animals and shit now, and even hypothetical animals. Musa, thanks for bringing a Jinbei versus 100 Kaidos. I think that if all the Jinbeis, I think if you had like 20 Jinbeis coordinate like a solid fist attack, I think it could affect Kaido. I think also Jinbei could be useful in that situation because Kaido is affected by techniques that kind of go under the skin a little bit, and I got the sense that the water punches that Jinbei does do that. You know, like, even fucking Killer could damage Kaido because of the sonic shit. Mosa, thanks for being a Pirate King to remember for 10 months. You don't really strike me as a camera/video nerd, so for future movies, do you have ideas for imagery, scenery, and mise-en-scène? Or are you more focused on the storytelling side of things? So I think that there's a bit of a difference. You are correct that I'm not a camera/video nerd in the sense that when it comes down to the nitty-gritty technicalities of, like, camera specs and details like that, I'm not interested in learning how each works. Even when I did my videography business with, I've told you guys about this whole history, right? Like, even when I was doing my videography business with the person who's now the editor of this channel, right? This was years ago. This would have been like 2017, 2018, 2019 that we were doing this. Even during those days, he was generally more in charge of, like, the specs of how we're shooting each shot. Like, he would be the one who decides, like, what do we want our shutter speed to be, aperture, shit like that, right? And I knew the gist of what it needed to be. I was more in charge of the bigger picture thing in terms of, like, okay, what's our actual promotional video going to look like? What are the overall shots that we're going to need? How is it going to be edited together to tell a story? Things like that. And then he'd be in charge of the nitty gritty. So, and he showed me things like that, things that I could not do if I was dropped into the field today. I'd probably just rely on basic shit like just setting a simple like ISO setting or whatever, or maybe even fucking rolling with automatic or something. That was never my forte, knowing the details, but I know what I want things to look like. So it's not so much I know exactly how to make it happen. I need to have somebody like a director of photography or whatever to be able to actually know what the settings need to be, know what type of camera is needed, no lens, no things like that. I know what I want things to look like though, and I like to draw on examples, which is like if like in general, I like to pick examples of other things and being like, I like how this was shot, or I like whatever camera they used for this, whatever settings were used for this. Can you make this happen? That's always been my thing. So in terms of imagery and scenery, mise en scène, etc., that is stuff that I actually care a lot about. That's actually one of my favorite aspects of filmmaking. I feel like with movies, movies are the medium where the actual art of filmmaking is almost, the storytelling can be secondary, if that makes sense. I think that in things like long running series, right, like books or series stories that are like TV shows, right, anime, manga, long running series, or things that are very dedicated, like their focus is intensely about the storytelling, like extended books, right? That's where I think storytelling matters the most. Filmmaking storytelling obviously matters a lot, but I feel like filmmaking, like the really great movies, the things that really, really elevate them are almost more so the actual the audiovisual experience, I think, right? I would say, for example, I think the best director of all time that I know of is Federico Fellini. And his films are less about telling really powerful stories. Like La Dolce Vita is not very story heavy, right? It is a brilliant display of mise en scène, camera work, thinking of visually interesting ways to present scenes and to show thematic symbolism, to really draw you into just the painting that is the shot, right? And the movement that takes place within it, like the choreography, all of that. So I value that a lot in filmmaking. I think a lot of my favorite movies in general are ones that kind of put the scene direction first almost, and maybe storytelling is maybe sometimes secondary in terms of importance. Um, I think that is something that I do care a lot about. A lot about it. Sorry, I've been drinking slightly, just because I was getting in the mood for Jay's birthday thing, but then I could barely join it. So sorry if I'm a little bit buzzed right now. But yeah, for me, I think with film, the things that I have in mind are going to be more, assuming I could one day make this happen, right? The things that I want to do first and foremost are more so experience based rather than as much storytelling based. I would love to tell longer form stories as well, but I don't think movies are actually the best medium for that. I think that there's a lot of other mediums that like you can't tell a Breaking Bad type Walter White character arc over the course of a single movie or even two movies, right? You look at something like The Godfather, which is a really strong story, right? But even that, it has to be much tighter character arc, and the thing that elevates it a lot is the acting, but the scene direction, right? Scene direction, music, cinematography, lots of film-specific things where that's where a lot of the focus ends up being, right? Rather than telling a very, very long, elaborate story. Knut Worgen, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 10 months. How do you think the Red Eared Pirates are going to arrive on Elbaf? Could they be the ones to help train the Straw Hats? So I think that that's a solid possibility. The problem is I really wouldn't like that. I feel like it would be almost against some of the ideas that I feel like when the Luffy and Shanks reunion has to happen, Luffy's crew should already be as good or better than Shanks' crew at that point in time. Because the whole point was that, like, we're going to separate now, way back in East Blue. Like, we're going to separate, and I'm going to go my own path, and I'm going to become stronger, and I'm going to get a crew that is better than yours. And when we meet again, I'm going to show you how far I've come. It was also part of the reason why, like, at Marine Forge, Shanks was like, it's not the right time for us to meet. It's the same reason why after Whole Cake, Shanks was saying, okay, we're close to the time that it's right for us to meet. Shanks kept waiting and waiting. Even at Wano, I think Shanks didn't go meet Luffy or anything like that, because I feel like the idea is that when they meet, like, Shanks wants Luffy to have lived up to his end of the bargain by the time they meet. I don't think Shanks and his crew are ever supposed to be like sort of rayleigh mentors that come in and like teach, oh, the Straw Hats, you guys are still kids compared to us. Here, let us show you the ropes. I would really much prefer, I feel like it lives up to the promise more if Shanks ultimately does not have to be somebody that teaches Luffy how to get stronger or get to the next level, and his crew doesn't have to do that either. Because that was kind of the idea. It was like, we're not taking you in, Luffy. And Luffy's like, all right, you guys don't take me in. I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to get there, and the next time that I see you guys, I'm going to be your equals, and my crew is going to be better than your guys' crew. If the Straw Hats that, like, I just don't think it's quite the same if Luffy comes in and meets them, like, not really at the same level as them or needing to be saved by them again. It would be really funny if Shanks died before meeting Luffy again. I think that'd be fucked. I do think that the red-haired pirates will show up, but now I'm feeling like it'll be more towards the end of the arc. Maybe after the Straw Hats have already resolved the God's Lance threat to some degree. Also, let's get the stream likes to 50 real quick. Also, can somebody fill me in? How good is the current episode? Because I assumed it was going to be really good, because this is probably the most extensive chapter in the fight featuring Luffy and Kizaru, right? So, if this is the most extensive chapter that showcases that, I figure that this would be the most exciting chapter to cover, right? It's good? Okay, so this is a good one for me to react to. I'm just checking. Crazy episode, 10 out of 10? All right. I'm happy I decided to react to this one. Okay, all right. Yeah, we'll definitely react to that. Buggy will be Pirate King. Watch the preview too. Why should I watch the preview? Better than the chapter itself? I bet, because like the chapter was, I think when the chapter came out, I remember there was a lot of anticipation for Luffy versus Kizaru. I think when it came out, people enjoyed it. I remember. I think this was the most enjoyable chapter of the fight. I think people just didn't think that this was going to be the peak of the fight, and then it kind of turned out to be that, because then after that, everything we saw was like in little bits and pieces, and then Luffy kind of just finishes the fight after other things happen off screen. It's fire? Okay, I'm excited. Yeah, let me just try and find it real quick. Let me try and find it. How do I always find this shit? I always forget. One Piece episode 1127. Alright. They added a lot for Lucci versus Zoro too. I wonder if Zoro fans like it or not. Did I watch the episode? No, I've not watched the episode yet. Yeah, you're on time. All right, let me just double check everything that needs to be double checked. Okay, we're gonna do display with face cam. I gotta add this shit again. Hold on. Here we go. Nobody panic. I know it's gotten dark, but nobody panic. All right, that's what's most important here. We all just keep our sanity. All right, there. See, nothing. It's not that bad. It's all good. I don't like this black screen though. What to do? Okay, yeah, I'll move this up. There we go. Does that help? Does this help? Fuck. I guess I gotta put some sort of an image or some shit in the background. The fuck? Okay, here. I know what to do. I know what to do. All right. We got this. We do this. All right. There's my frozen image. But now what we're going to do is put this image on top of that image. So now it almost looks seamless. It almost looks seamless. And then the last thing we've got is this shit. And we're just going to go ahead and turn this opacity down a tiny bit just to be super safe. There we go. There we go. There we go. And last thing, I got to turn off desktop audio. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Jarence Rambo, thanks for the 5. Do you count Law as a swordsman? Also, do you think his fight with Virgo, with the way he defeats him, is a sword feat or a devil fruit feat? Or you still hate Law? No W. No, Law definitely beat Virgo. There's no question about that. No one can take Law's W against Virgo away from him. Law is a sword. Yeah, Law is a swordsman. Law is a swordsman. I think where it's complicated is just like when you talk about when you talk about Law versus Zoro. Like, I think Law is a great example of like, you can be a stronger swordsman than somebody, but are you stronger than them overall, right? Like, that's two separate things. So, for example, everybody would agree Zoro's the stronger swordsman than Law. As in, if you take away Law's devil fruit, Zoro's stronger. I think where the debate comes in for a lot of people is like, okay, is Zoro stronger than Law with Law's fruit, right? So Law's a perfect example of not being quite as strong a swordsman as somebody, but it's a debate once you include the devil fruit abilities or something like that, right? But Law is a swordsman, right? And being you can be a stronger swordsman than Law without necessarily being stronger than Law. With Law's fruit situation, how do I say this? I view it as basically he defeated Virgo. I view it as like a sword feat and a devil fruit feat. I just kind of count it as like, my assumption is that his fruit power gives him greater cutting ability. Like his fruit's power is that it allows one to bisect things, right? At the same time, the fruit in itself is likely not strong enough to cut someone like Virgo, so I imagine Law having the cutting ability also plays a part in it. I don't know. I don't think Oda's been super clear on could Law have cut Virgo without the devil fruit. I view it as there's two ways to interpret Law's ability. Way number one is basically Law's fruit just allows him to extend his blade in a, like, conceptually extend his blade, right? So like it allows him to just widen his range and not power. So for example, if Law is capable of normally cutting a tree with a sword, then adding his devil fruit in just basically allows Law to cut the range of that, such that if there's trees way over there, those will also be cut during Law's sword swing. Does that make sense? That's one way to interpret Law's ability. Like, it allows him to cut things he could already cut, but it just expands the range of what he's doing. The other way of viewing at it is like Law's devil fruit also adds cutting power to him, right? So like even if he couldn't cut something on his own, with the devil fruit added in, then it's Law's own personal strength plus the devil fruit adding range and power. So I think there's just a couple ways that you can interpret Law's ability. Let me do a little poll. I'm curious what people think about. Does Law's devil fruit add? Wait. No, let me not complicate it. Could Law have cut Virgo in half without his devil fruit? The more I think about it, I don't think Law could have cut Virgo in half without his Devil Fruit, actually. So maybe my interpretation, maybe because Pika, I feel like Virgo has better hockey than Pika, I would imagine. And even Zoro doesn't just cut Pika in half. And Zoro's Zoro's actually using his strongest base level, like non-Ashura cutting ability. Like he's using his signature technique. He's got black coating on all of his swords and everything. He doesn't just cut Pika in half. So I imagine Law couldn't have cut Pika. Yeah, I don't think. I think regardless of how you think between Law versus Zoro, right? I think most would agree that Law's not a stronger swordsman than Zoro. So if Zoro couldn't just cut Pika in half, I imagine Law can't just cut Virgo in half without the fruit. So now that I think about it, I think that'd be the case. So it probably does give some cutting power. Jordan Vance's Law's hockey was better than Virgo, so yes, he could. No, but I think that, again, like, if even Zoro couldn't do that to Pika, then I don't think it was just Law's cutting power, you know? I feel like Law probably did have as strong or stronger hockey than Virgo, I guess. But I don't think the fruit did nothing. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not even trying to get into Zoro versus Law here. I'm just saying I think most people would agree that just you, like no Devil Fruit included, Zoro is stronger than Law, right? At cutting things, right? Mitya says, I think Oda very decidedly chooses not to draw Law with hockey on his sword. I don't think he's ever done it. Yeah. Yeah. Pika's weird because I don't think... No, Zoro's final attack on Pika was with Pika doing black coating on his whole body also. Isis1155 says, Law's Devil Fruit can cut anything he can cut. We never see the Devil Fruit add a cutting buff. Yeah, but my one thought now is like, well, I don't think Zoro could just cut Pika in half. Or sorry, Virgo in half. Because Zoro didn't even just cut Pika in half, right? And I think Virgo's hockey is at least as strong as Pika's, right? So if Zoro didn't just cut Pika straight in half, then I don't think Law's hockey is as good as Zoro's, right? So if Zoro couldn't just straight up cut Pika in half, I don't think Law's cutting Virgo in half without his Devil Fruit. So his fruit's doing something there, right? He did cut Pika in half? You're forgetting what I'm talking about. I'm talking about his when Pika was in full body armament hockey mode. Full body armament. Like Pika did the same thing as Virgo. Zoro cuts him, but he doesn't cut him in half like Law did. So if he's not cutting him in half, I imagine Law's fruit's doing something. Taupe says, just like Luffy combined the properties of rubber with his armament. Yeah, I guess so. I agree Dressrosa Zoro might have been weaker than Punk Hazard Law, but not in terms of swordsmanship. Not in terms... One, I don't think he was weaker than Law, but I think it's not worth discussing. You can argue that either way, right? But in terms of swordsmanship, I don't think there's any point in which Law is above Zoro, right? So if Zoro can't cut Pika with just pure swordsmanship in half, then I don't think Law with just his swordsmanship could cut Virgo in half. Sun, thanks for the 2. You think Zoro's trying to cut Pika in half? I think at that point we're just getting into like debating character intent that we can never know about. I don't think Zoro would have given a shit whether Pika, like, I don't think Zoro was like holding back with that move or something like that. I think Zoro's just trying to cut what he's trying to cut. Like, when Zoro cuts Mr. 1, is he trying to cut Mr. 1 in half? I think Zoro's just trying to do the best cut that he can do. I don't think he's like subconsciously trying to be, or I don't think he's like scaling things back specifically for these characters. All right, this is getting into a weird... You know what? I think at the end of the day, it's a silly discussion because I would genuinely say I think this falls into the category of things that Oda probably doesn't think that much about. I think at the end of the day, Oda's like, Law is stronger than Virgo, and it's cool to have Virgo cut in half and the entire mountain range cut in half, so that's what's going to happen. Yeah, I think that's it at the end of the day. All right, I have another question. JWP, what's going on? Always good to see you, man. I have another question. All right. How do I say this? I need you all to be genuinely honest with me. Is the hair experiment worth continuing? Or do we just go back to the previous hairstyle? The hairstyle that I had the simpler hairstyle that I had for years, basically, the shorter hair. Is the hair experiment worth continuing? Does this look good? Is this good? Are we working with this? Are we happy with this? How do we feel? We don't know. Because having long hair, it's not just about having long hair. I've realized that there's issues that come up. It gets in your eyes when you're running, when you're lifting weights, when you're doing things. It's just this is very split. Here, let me do a poll. Let me do the poll. That Back Panda says, get the hair your girlfriend wants. She's always right. She's okay with me continuing this, but she expresses that I need to use more products to make it look good. But I don't like using products. You don't look bad, but old is better. I feel like that might be the consensus. All right. Mitya says the question is, do you like it? I want to see where it goes. That's where I'm at. I think I prefer the shorter hair. All right, let's just see. JW pieces maybe look better like a couple weeks ago. Let's just see. Grow it out like Shamrock. Maybe we'll do the Shamrock. Let's see. All right. Let's do a poll. Here. All right, we're doing this poll. We're going to do this poll, then we're going to get the stream likes up a little bit, and then I'll react to the episode. Black like Sanji says, can't do long hair if you don't like taking care of it. Just wish there was a way. Yeah, that's the thing. Mason Fuller says you can cut it off in 10 minutes, but can't grow it back that fast is the thing. That's the thing. That's the problem. And that's the inherent problem to the situation. All right, most people say shorter is better, but some people say that keep going, the potential is there. All right, we'll give it a little bit longer. JWP says Wiper cut is crazy, lol. Wiper, if it looked like Wiper, that'd be good. The problem is my hair's a little curly, you know? Jarence Rambo, thanks for the 2. Law Sword is a conduit for his Devil Fruit. He needs sword. Yeah, I agree with that. It's, to me, the question is more so, how much does he need the Devil Fruit? You know? All right. We'll wait and see. We're gonna let it go a little bit longer. I think I need to come up with a deadline, like a sort of like how unruly can the hair get before I just have to cut it. All right. Topes is so shorter or larger right now. It's bad. We are gonna let's get the stream likes up to 80 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 80, and after that, we will begin the episode reaction. Actually, let's get it up to 100. Let's try and get it up to 100. Am I starting from 000? Yeah. Go till Christmas? That's fucking far. Let's do 80. Let's keep it reasonable. Christmas, Jesus Christ. Because that's his birthday. No, but genuinely speaking, Christmas is way too far. Way too far. Now it's just says, Morj, give me a second. I'll super chat my opinion on Law Devil Fruit in comparison with hockey. All right, man. Looking forward to it. Go till summer. Summer's practically here. Oh, we got the stream likes to 91. Okay, at that point, let's just get it to 100. If we get it to 100, we will start the reaction. Yeah, maybe I'm not allowed to. I think this is something that was discussed before. I'm not allowed to cut my hair till the Wana video is out. We're almost there. Let's get it to 100. Grow it out till you can cosplay Loki. Yeah, there's so many cool characters with long hair. Oh, 3 more likes. You could be the like that gets us started on the reaction. English 1D1. Thanks for the 5, man. Not gonna lie, longer is good, but I think you gotta style it more, Morgy Porgy. Thanks. I agree with that. Maybe I gotta figure out. I gotta stop just letting it grow out long and just seeing what happens. That doesn't work. Also, what do you think the odds are of Kid popping in all of this mess? Kid popping in now would be so sick. That would genuinely be. I think one of the coolest ways Oda could reintroduce Kid to the story is in a time of need. Because if we see Kid, like, remember when Kid lost to Kaido? And so we saw him in jail, and it's like Little Pirate Games, etc. Great chapter, by the way. Great scene. And then the next time that we see Kid is when Luffy's dragged into Udon, and then we see Kid all beat up right next to him. It's not like inspiring stuff for, like, people were still excited about Kid at that point in time. But there's never really been a time that, like, Kid exits the story and then comes back in a cool way. So, for example, after that, then Kid breaks out of jail off screen, and he's dragged back in all beaten up and sad because Killer has eaten a smile fruit, right? So, and then Kid needs to be saved again. Next time we see him, he's joining in on the Onigashima raid, but not exactly at a moment of need. He comes up with them to the rooftop, and then ultimately, like, Kid gets told to fuck off from the Kaido fight and to go help against Big Mom. I just think that a thing that makes people excited about characters is generally just, this is fucking stupid to say, but, like, it's very obvious, but it's just true. A thing that makes people excited about characters is just giving them impactful, cool moments. That's all it really takes for a lot of characters. If you can craft really exciting, cool moments for characters, then that affects a lot of how people feel about them and how they want the character to return, their impression of the character, stuff like that. I think to this day, like, simple example, fucking Marco. Marco became a really fucking popular character in One Piece literally just off of he's done a lot more and been more of a presence in the story now, but he became very popular early on from just the get-go, from the moment his fruit was debuted, stopping Kizaru against Whitebeard and kicking Kizaru back, right? That was a moment. Like, we knew very little about Marco's character at the time, but his popularity exploded right there. Ace became one of the most popular One Piece characters ever from, like, 2-3 chapters of his introduction in Alabasta. Why? Because he's being introduced, acting cool, telling off Smoker, like getting Smoker off their backs, which they hadn't been able to do, and then, like, destroying a shit ton of Baroque work ships and stuff like that. Like, people just giving characters cool moments makes people excited for characters, right? Momonosuke, his popularity skyrocketed after that scene that he gives at the speech that he gives at the end of the Onigashima battle, when he's unveiled in his full adult form for the first time, and he gives his big speech. Momonosuke stocks, like, skyrocketed right then. Like, people had already started to come around on his character, but I think that was the moment that people actually really found him to be a cool character. The big problem with Kid is that he has not had, like, he's been in the story over and over. Oda has yet to write any sort of singular, iconic, really cool scene for him. Like, we've been talking about Law for 15 minutes on the stream, and we've been talking about him for one very specific scene, right? Forget that Oda already gave Law a bunch of really cool moments and scenes in Punk Hazard, from the get-go fighting Smoker and shit, right? But a really iconic scene for Law was Law one-shotting Virgo while cutting the entire island in half, while, like, talking shit to Doflamingo over the Den Den Mushi and giving this grand speech about the new era, right? That's cool stuff, right? It's not technically as big of a deal as, like, Kid helping against Big Mom, right? But just giving characters cool moments and cool scenes and impactful scenes like that, that make them look badass, that's what attaches readers to you. The void for Kid in terms of his popularity is very simply just because Oda hasn't written shit for him that's cool. That's like a really cool, iconic Kid scene. The coolest stuff that he had was pre-time skip. I think some of Kid's best moments were like him. I think his best moment in the story was when he first heard Luffy say that I'm going to be Pirate King one day, and Kid said, yeah, you need to be able to talk that talk, like, if you're going to move forward in the world from here on. That was good. That added some perspective on things. Kid was the first character to really affirm Luffy's bold claims like that, because Kid had been doing that too his entire journey as well. So that was cool to see. For him to have existed in the New World for so many chapters and still have, like, no really cool moments, like, nothing on the rooftop. Killer had fucking better stuff than him on the rooftop. Zoro and Luffy, I can think of like 10 different cool moments for them on the rooftop. Even in the Big Mom fight, I think people remember Law's room moments better than Kid doing his stupid cannon thing. The cannon that looked like it was something fucking Frankie could have built from pre-time skip. Like, Kid's most iconic moment. You know what Kid's most... What's Kid's most iconic moment in the story? Everyone tell me what's Kid's most iconic moment in the story. What's his most iconic moment in the story? There's one moment of Kid's that's the most iconic moment in the story by far. Exactly. Getting one shot by Shanks. That's Kid's most iconic moment in the story. Right? His most iconic moment is being used to gas up another character. Right? He is actually maybe part of Shanks' most iconic moment in the story. Actually, come to think of it, that's one of the reasons that Shanks is such a fucking popular character. Shanks has several moments in the story that are some of the most iconic moments in the story. That are, like... He has several moments that would, for any other character, be their best moment in the story, right? Stopping the entire... Like, him one-shotting Kid... That was a really, really cool debut of Shanks' first, like, named attack in the story. Like, that's an iconic moment, right? That's not even, that didn't even hold a candle to Shanks' moment stopping the Marineford War. For a lot of readers, that was, like, a crazy, crazy impactful moment. Like, Shanks showing up, stopping a Kaido, saving Kobe, talking about the few seconds of courage, and then stopping the war. That's probably Shanks' biggest moment, right? Before that, it was, like, Luffy, Chapter 1, giving him the hat and everything like that. Even fucking stopping, like, Green Bull. Like, Shanks scaring off Green Bull. That's a really, really fucking cool moment. And it doesn't even make Shanks as, like, it doesn't even crack the first or second spot. So, you've got a character who shows up. It's kind of the reverse Kid, right? Kid's a character who's been around so fucking often and been involved in a lot of shit at this point. And he has no really impactful, really cool scenes for readers to latch onto. Shanks is a character that is very, very exciting to readers and remains very high in popularity polls and anticipation because every single time the character has shown up in the story, it has been a really impactful, cool, iconic moment, right? Almost every single time. Splitting, seriously, backtrack. Obviously, Chapter 1, splitting the sky with Whitebeard, right? Which was the highest feat that we'd seen in the story so far. Stopping the Marineford War, which for a lot of people is like one of the coolest moments in the war, if not the coolest, right? Scaring off Green Bull, an admiral, so first character to just, like, scare off an admiral from far away and, like, make them shit their pants and retreat, right? One-shotting Kid, like, every single time Shanks is on screen, it's something really cool and impactful that Oda's cooked up for him, right? That's why Shanks gets a lot of the hype. It's actually one of the reasons that Dragon, so far, I think in the New World, a lot of his stocks have gone down. Because Dragon we've been seeing a lot of lately, and pretty much every single time, he's sweating. He's sweating about something. Something's just not quite right. Dragon had 20 years to plan, and somehow things just still don't seem to be working out exactly as how he expected. It's just always something or the other, and he's like, oh, fuck. I don't know about this situation or that situation, or like, oh my god, a newspaper that suggested that Sabo's, like, a bad person. What are we gonna do about this? You know? Fuck. Ancient weapons? The world government has an ancient weapon? Oh shit, never considered that possibility. There's someone in charge of the world government that's evil? News to me. Don't know what the fuck the dude's been planning for all this time, but it has not been getting his shit together, that's for sure. I don't know. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but yeah, simple fact. Like, Kid has had no cool moments. I'd say, like, if you look throughout the Supernova, right, Law, obviously, shit ton of cool moments for the character. Really, like, Oda likes making that character look cool. That's why he's got a lot of popularity, a lot of fans. Um, you look at fucking Capone Beige. Capone Beige made he's been out of the story for some time now, but he made a solid impact in Whole Cake Island. One of the coolest scenes in Whole Cake is that mafia meeting room scene with Capone Beige and everybody, and people really, really like that. His whole like assassination plot and everything like that. Like, Capone Beige is he became a popular character, at least for the course of Whole Cake, just because all you need to do is give the character cool stuff, give him cool moments, give him cool times to, like, moments to shine. Even Capone Beige telling Katakuri, like, you have the power to see the future, but we all have the power to change it. That's cool shit. Kid did not have any of that in all of Wano. So, long story short, I feel like with the Kid situation, Kid popping up in all of this mess, I think would be phenomenal, because it would be Kid finally coming in clutch in a way that I feel like it's usually been the reverse up till now, where, like, Kid has kind of needed to be saved very often, right? Luffy needed to save him when he's being drowned in Udon, along with Killer. Then in the whole rooftop battle and everything, Kid was kind of out of his depth, and ultimately was like, okay, Luffy's gonna take care of Kaido, even though I thought I'd come up here and take care of Kaido, so I guess I'll go fight against Big Mom. And then after that, Law's coming in to help him against Big Mom. Like, there's no real Kid moments. I think it would be great if everyone's backs are against the wall or something, and then Kid actually has to come in and help, because it finally gives him something. Like, it finally gives him something that is going to be impactful for readers, and that's a good way to start reincorporating him into the story. I don't know if that's going to happen. So you asked, what do I think the odds are if it happening? I don't know, like 50-50. Isis1155, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 19 months. We see that when Law bisects you, your feet can still move, and we don't see swordsmen cut people in half much, so I assume Law's Devil Fruit extends the cut. Yeah. So I guess if Law can cut a little bit through something, then the Devil Fruit allows that power to, like, continue on through the rest of it. Maybe that's a good way to interpret it. English 1D1, thanks for the 2. Kid, Loki, NL, electromagnetism mishaps on the way. Let's throw Nami in there too. Yeah, Elbaf having a weakness to lightning is interesting. I just wonder where that goes. If NL's going to return, it could be interesting here. Kid doing some shit. Obviously, Nami's abilities. I mean, some of the fucking things that Killing Him created, like storm clouds can create lightning and everything, but Loki's was obviously very super effective in that it could, like, actually set the entire island on fire. Jolly D. Joso, thanks for the 2. Kid's most iconic moment is Kaido's intro. Yeah, that's probably, if you count that as a Kid moment, that's probably the most iconic moment that he's been a part of in the story. Jarence Rambo, thanks for the 2. Kid and Screw hanging up those dead pirates was cool. I did think that was a cool moment. I don't think that's what people think of anymore when they think of Kid. I think that was, like, a cool moment in that it was an interesting teaser for Kid in the future. So Kid pre-time skip had a lot of good teasers for his ability in the future, or not ability, for his role in the story for the future. But then once we actually started getting those plot significant moments for Kid, I think those fell flat quite a bit. JWP, thanks for the 5. Kid crucifying those fodder like 700 chapters ago was kind of cool. Lol. I agree. Also, it's kind of wild that Kid looked the worst on the rooftop. Yeah. Just the fact that Killer got to attack. I don't know why Oda did that. Because I can understand wanting to give the spotlight to Luffy, Zoro, right? But I don't know why Oda decided that the only character that can't hurt Kaido is going to be Kid in that situation. I thought that's weird. Especially because it's just like, Killer's fucking there. Like, why have Killer be allowed to hurt Kaido when Kid himself can? I think that's just weird. Now show, thanks for the 2. Couldn't super chat everything, but please read chat. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look now. We can take a look, man. Super chat ain't working. Okay. Kaido and Big Mom's haki is far too great for Law's Fruit to be super effective in comparison to Zoro. The question I think to ask is if Law's haki is greater or comparable to Zoro's haki for his Devil Fruit to be effective. No, I definitely don't think Law's haki is as good as Zoro's. I don't think that's particularly close. And maybe that's part of why we never saw Law actually manage to land a hit on Kaido and Big Mom. Yeah, I don't think Zoro and Law's haki is close. I do wonder if Law's... The main question is just, does Law's Devil Fruit add to his haki ability? Or his haki cutting, his sword cutting stuff, right? But we saw that he still couldn't cut Kaido and Big Mom, even if that were the case. So I don't know what that says exactly. All right, let's get into it. Let's start watching the episode. We'll watch the episode. Yeah, Kid watching the Caesar broadcast was neat too. I think a lot of stuff for Kid in terms of build up. I think building up to Kid's role in the story was cool. Because even when we entered the New World, I thought it was interesting to hear, like, Big Mom, right? When Big Mom first had her conversation with Luffy, we overheard, like, on the Den Den Mushi in Fishman Island, one of the things that was reported was, look, some of our pirate ships were just destroyed by Captain Kidd, so we're actually short on some resources right now. So maybe we should do this deal with, maybe we should listen to Luffy and accept his terms or whatever. Or, like, we could use that right now, right? That was cool. Even that little teaser was exciting because it's like, oh shit, it reminds you that, like, one, Kid is the first of the supernova whose name that we hear in the New World. And we hear that he's already active and already fucking with the Yonko that Luffy is now engaging with. So it gives that sense that we already had pre-time skip, that Kid is this supernova rival of Luffy's that's in some senses already a bit ahead of him, right? Higher bounty, so therefore a little bit more notorious pre-time skip. Obviously, Luffy had the higher bounty by the end of pre-time skip after the Marineford shit. But Kid was that guy that, like, he seemed as though he was being set up as this counterpart to Luffy. So when we hit the New World, we know the Straughts have been training and everything, but we know that they're behind in terms of progress, right? Like actual, like, real world progress in terms of what they're doing. So hearing right off the bat that, like, one of their supernova rival from the past, Kid, is already out and about and doing shit and fucking shit up and fucking with the Yonko and challenging them ahead of the Straw Hats, that felt really cool, and it built some excitement towards what's Kid's role going to be in the story, and seeing him in the future. And then you hit Punk Hazard, and here there's this, like, underworld broker stuff going on, broadcasts going on to all these different places. And Kid's one of the people that's observing, and it seems kind of cool that he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit about this stuff. It's good to know about, but, like, this stuff is ticky-tack stuff that I'm not interested in getting involved with. Like, that's cool. It's like, okay, what's Kid planning? Then we see that, like, Luffy and Law have made their alliance, and Kid's actually, at the same time, made an even bigger alliance. Like, Kid and Law's two supernovas. Kid's just gone and allied with essentially made an alliance of 3 supernovas. So it felt like Kid almost became a bit of a bar that's being chased, and Kid had the largest bounty out of the supernovas coming out of the time skip. So Kid was this bar. It was exciting to see, right? And then we hit the end of Dressrosa, and everything changed. Luffy and Law get their higher bounties. They get 500 million berry at the same time as Kaido drops in front of Kid, destroys the Kid alliance, right? Destroys the Kid alliance, completely demolishes that. And then next thing you know, Kid's in jail, Little Pirate Games, and it's all downhill from there. So Kid was the most exciting of a concept when it was this thing that was like a tease for the future. Like, Luffy's on his journey, but there's this other guy that's number 1 out of his rivals that's also doing his journey. We're gonna get to him soon in the story. We're gonna get to him. Pre-time skip, we're being showcased, like, his mentality, and that's exciting and everything. He's getting cool quotes, cool moments, but they're all tease moments. He's not actually involved heavily in the plot yet. It's like, I wonder what it's going to be like when Luffy finally runs into him in the future, right? Enter the New World. Still getting excited to see what Kid has for store. Oda's teasing more and more, like, Kid's being talked about by Big Mom. He's forming his own alliance. He's in the news. He's monitoring the Punk Hazard situation. Things like that are happening. Oh, they're going after Shanks, so they're actually also targeting a Yonko. It's all exciting build up towards Kid's involvement in the story. And then finally, anticipation turns into reality, and reality is disappointing in that Kid, once he actually is finally involved in the story, no cool moments, no cool moments, no impactful scenes, always seems like he's playing sort of catch up or dropping the ball, yada, yada, yada. There's just nothing for him to really latch onto after all of that anticipation. So hopefully that can be remedied. All right, let's get into the thing. He got a road copy before Luffy, lol. Yeah, the tricky thing with that is that that was something we found out after the fact. It would have been cool if like it was being teased that Kid's already stolen something from Big Mom, etc. But everything kind of changed in terms of how Oda approached Kid as a character from the end of Dressrosa on. And that first losing to Kaido, being shown in jail cell, then being told once they hit Whole Cake that Kid already was defeated here. In actuality, he wasn't, but this is the new information that we're now being told about Kid. By the time we find out that that was actually a lie, and that Kid actually did successfully defeat a Big Mom commander and take the Road Poneglyph, at that point in time, that's not even a big deal because Luffy straight up has beaten Katakuri and has 2 Road Poneglyphs to his name and is a 1.5 billion bounty character and is being called the 5th Emperor of the Sea. So Luffy essentially moved past Kid. I think that was the most disappointing thing. Kid was neck and neck with Luffy in terms of reputation pre-time skip. Post-time skip, Luffy's having to play a little bit of catch-up in so many regards. Like, Luffy's challenging Big Mom, but at the same time, he's finding out over the Denden Mushi that, like, Kid has already been fucking with her shit, right? That's Fishman Island. Punk Hazard, we see Luffy and Law now starting the alliance, but we see that Kid and his crew, they're keeping a tab on everything that's happening, and they're already interested in doing their own alliance. It's an even bigger alliance. We find out that Kid has a bigger bounty than Luffy and everything like that. So Kid's kind of playing catch-up with Luffy. Luffy's kind of playing catch-up with Kid. And it builds this anticipation for when their storylines are going to cross. But Oda does this thing where before their storylines intersect, which is in Wano, before that happens, Oda has Luffy then pass Kid up ahead of time. He has Luffy pass Kid up by the end of Dressrosa. In terms of reputation, Luffy getting bigger bounty, even Law getting a bigger bounty, getting the Grand Fleet, having Kid and his entire alliance decimated while Luffy's alliance is actually growing bigger and stronger, getting in the samurais and the minks and everything like that. And then by the end of Whole Cake Island, Luffy's now being called the 5th Emperor, 1.5 billion berry bounty. Luffy's defeated a fucking Yonko First Mate and everything like that and actually gotten the better of Big Mom. So they're coming into Wano, like the time that their stories finally meet, the whole concept of the whole promise of what Kid kind of seemed to be as a character earlier on has now been done away with. It's no longer as exciting because the excitement came from having this genuine rival who's doing so many similar things to Luffy, just on the other side of the map, right? And their stories are progressing, and Kid's even a bit ahead in terms of like his progress as a pirate for a long time. But then Kid's progress before they can meet, right? Because that's the exciting part, when the rivals finally meet, and then you see the fireworks that happen then. Before that can happen, Oda stalls Kid's progress hard and actually torpedoes it, and then has Luffy keep going. Like, way higher. Like, by the time they meet, there's not even a competition, right? Luffy's just ahead in every single aspect, and Luffy's, it's just ahead in every single aspect, right? You can say that's interesting for themes and thematic purpose of Kid's character, but it doesn't make for an interesting dynamic for the story, right? It's not fun to watch the character that has been built up for some time as a potential genuine rival for Luffy to actually, when it finally happens, when that final crossroads occurs, for it to not be that exciting of a crossroads, and Kid almost becomes like an afterthought to Luffy for most of Wano. All right, continuing. Let's go. Let's do the. I've been talking about Kid for a long time. Let's do the thing. Let's watch the episode. All right, just triple checking that there's no audio, whatever here. It's going to be caught. Just hit play here. Make sure that there's no audio that plays here. All right, we're good. I think we'll have a seamless episode reaction here. Move some shit around. All right. All right. All right, everybody, you good to go? Let's watch. Let's get the stream lights up to 150. I'm excited to see this episode because I did see some like little images of it or clips of it. It looks exciting. I am going to skip the. I guess I can watch the opening. I do like the opening. I think I rated this really fucking high as far as openings go. I'm semi watching the opening because I've already seen it. Just keep that in mind. To Peter Treviso says, if Blackbeard can't beat Luffy right now, you think people would be disappointed? I don't think Blackbeard can beat Luffy right now. I feel like most people probably have Luffy ahead of Blackbeard. I think Blackbeard will be ahead of Luffy at the end of Elbaf because I think Blackbeard will get his final fruit over the course of this arc. And I don't think Luffy will get that much stronger this arc. I think Luffy's next big leap in strength is going to be getting the next, like, having one more big bloom of Conqueror's Haki. And I don't think he will get that till he fights Blackbeard. So I feel like, I'm not saying Luffy won't get any stronger from now to the Blackbeard fight, but I don't think it'll be, I think it won't be super significant. I think he'll get better at using his fruit. I don't think his next leap in terms of Haki will happen till the Blackbeard fight itself. So with Luffy right now, I think Luffy right now has reached a place that's probably a little bit above Blackbeard even, but I think Luffy's going to be, I don't think he's going to have a huge leap in Elbaf, kind of the same way he didn't have a huge leap in Egghead. I think this is where Luffy's going to be at for like a little bit, this general area where he's just getting more used to and more creative with using his fruit. I think Blackbeard's going to get a whole new fruit this arc. So that I did a video on this a little bit ago. Like Blackbeard has 3 big moves that seem set up for him to happen before the end of before the start of the final war, right? So along with Blackbeard getting Pluton, Blackbeard successfully negotiating becoming a king with the world government, and Blackbeard getting his fruit, I think he as a character and all of his resources are going to take a huge leap forward by the end of the Elbaf arc, so that in the final war, it's going to begin with Blackbeard as the biggest pirate threat on the ocean. So I think Oda's kind of deliberately almost setting up the Blackbeard pirates to be looking like a little jank at the moment, you know, like the whole crew was fucking needed plus Aokiji to take out, like so many members were needed to, plus Aokiji to just to capture old Garp, and like a lot of cheating and trickery and everything, you know. I think that, and like Blackbeard struggling somewhat with law and everything, which you wouldn't expect, you know, Kaido to do 1v1 or Shanks to do 1v1. I think that's deliberate. I think there's been a bit of a role reversal with like Luffy now being ahead as a pirate. I think Blackbeard will rectify that before the final war starts. I think he's going to be a very different threat before the end of this arc. If you think that Blackbeard is stronger than Luffy right now, that's entirely possible. I think Luffy is stronger than Blackbeard at the moment. I just think that Blackbeard is going to get his 3rd fruit very soon, which will make him stronger than Luffy, likely the strongest pirate on the ocean. Likely, I think Blackbeard by the final war will be the strongest character outside of, I guess, Emu himself. That's my guess. Woo, wait, what? We're just getting into it? Oh, I guess because I didn't see last episode, so we're not just getting into it. So I actually appreciate this recap. All right, I appreciate this recap. I like that. That was funny. Just the two characters with those personalities interacting like this with the voice acting is cool. Waikoyo, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. Thank you for. Hey, Morj, love what you do. Thank you. I appreciate that. Only popping in for a second. That's why I'm responding to this really quick. But I wanted to ask, who do you think will be the least focused on straw at this arc? Tomorrow's video will elaborate this on this quite a bit. But I think at this moment in time, um, it might be Nami because a lot of the other straw hats have setups, like clear setups right now. It might be Nami. It could be Chopper if I'm wrong about what one of the things I talk about in tomorrow's video. I think it might be Nami, Chopper, or Jinbei. That's what I would say at the moment. I think everybody else, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji will get shit just due to action purposes, and there's already set up for Luffy for significant things. Okay, she's just imagining this. Usopp getting stuff, Frankie getting stuff, Robin getting stuff, even Brooks seems like he's getting stuff here. I'd say Nami, Jinbei, Chopper. I think there's a significant angle for him, but I have no idea if it's actually going to happen. I think it's likely though, so I'd say one of those three. But thank you. I do actually think there's an angle for Chopper, so watch out for tomorrow's video. I cover all the Straw Hats, so I'll cover all the Straw Hats in tomorrow's video if you're curious about what you think character arc wise is happening. Is Vegapunk that big? Why is Vegapunk so big? Man, I just straight up don't understand why would sub characters. Because I get that Oda likes drawing a lot of characters just randomly really big, but Vegapunk just seems like an odd choice. YY7 says, bro, always has to sneak this Jinbei, shake my head. I just don't know if there's like a clear thing for Jinbei. This is before everyone knows that Bonnie's secretly a kid. A lot of that phrasing was like a tip off though. Oh, did she like age the sword? I'm watching. I'm paying attention. I can be patient. I can wait for the Luffy Kizaru stuff. I can be patient. I think I appreciate that with Egghead, even the sections that they're padding out time a little bit, it generally feels like they're trying to at least put stuff on screen that's interesting to the best of their ability. So it's not like they half-assed it with Bonnie's fight scene or anything. They just extended some basic action like Bonnie versus fodder. React harder. There's nothing for me to react to. I think I said the one thing that I thought was mildly interesting, which is she aged that sword. I don't remember. Can she do that in the manga? As far as I remember, no, right? It's inorganic shit, right? Or organic shit that she can do. Brave Rise said Punk Hazard poster goes hard. You think so? Here, let me share with you guys. Here we go. All right. Those posters are available at the Morj store. If you're interested in grabbing a poster, if you're interested in grabbing a poster, just head over to the Morj store, and you can get all 4 posters on the wall for 50% off if you want to grab all of them. Oh, shit. All right, let's go. How does the anime do this? All right. The anime is now headed into problematic territory. They did this during the King fight too. They did it during the King fight also, where like even after I still remember because I've watched the full episode a couple times actually. I like the fight. I like the fight. I can never again be accused of not actually having watched the Wano fights and like a lot of the best Wano episodes. I've actually gone through and watched all of the Strat's fights in the anime, full episodes. Okay, they did this in the King fight too. I remember it specifically. In the manga, the sequence of events is basically Zoro gets his King of Hell mode, or not King of Hell. He gets his advanced armament or Conqueror's Haki. Sorry, gets his advanced Conqueror's Haki. After that, King generally tries to play keep away. Like King will do, he does his magma move on him. Zoro avoids that. Then King clashes with him, tries to take the swords again. Zoro uses Conqueror's Haki to separate from the swords. Then after that, Zoro. No, after that, King is zipping around. Zoro catches him or whatever with a crow dance move or something. I might be misremembering the name exactly. Then there's like a singular panel where Zoro's like fighting King while using, his advanced Conqueror's Haki stuff, and King is like blocking and trying to deflect. That's how it happens in the manga. And then King like backs up, okay? In the anime, there's a full-on section where like King and Zoro are just like fighting sword to sword, even though Zoro has his advanced Conqueror's Haki now. And King actually keeps like pushing Zoro back. Then Zoro comes back at him. Then King pushes it, like knocks him away. Then Zoro comes back at him. And this happens multiple times over while Zoro already has unlocked advanced Conqueror's Haki and is using it. That defeats the whole fucking point. The whole fucking point is that once Zoro has advanced Conqueror's Haki, he is now too much for King to be able to handle in actual straight sword combat, because King doesn't have it like that. That's the whole point. But the anime needs to add extra shit, even if it doesn't make any fucking logical sense, and negates the whole purpose of this power-up that they spent a whole fucking episode building up to Zoro unlocking. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyway, continuing on. So, for example, in the King fight, this shit already happened where Zoro has advanced Conqueror's Haki unlocked and on his swords, but for whatever reason, King is still able to fight evenly with him. It seems like it's happening here too. I don't know. It's an anime thing. What is the point of Zoro having this shit on his swords if it's just the same as normal fucking Haki, whatever the fuck Lucci's using? What's the point? Anthony Scrooge says, no, Hellflames isn't Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Advanced Conqueror's Haki is Black Lightning. Then what the fuck are Hellflames? What the fuck are Hellflames? That's not Advanced Conquerors. That's not... What are Hellflames then? What's the flames? Why are the flames something that only came about after Zoro unlocked Advanced Conquerors? Can someone point me to Zoro using the Hellflames before chapter 1133 ended? 1133, 1134. Or 1033. Can someone point me to Hellflames being used before that? Move on, you're getting baited. I mean, that's part of the fun of it. Like, this is... We're watching an episode about fights. Like, the reason I'm watching this episode is because it has fights. I want to see how the anime animated the fights, right? So it's like, this is a point of discussion that I think is fair here, you know? I didn't click on this episode because the themes of this episode are just so amazing or something. I clicked it because I knew it had Luffy versus Kizaru, and I knew it had some Luffy versus, or Zoro versus Lucci. Odin's Flames, says fake Linskov. Can anyone give me an example of Odin using flames? What the fuck is this? Oh, okay, that's funny. I don't... this is funny to me because Zoro's expression also seems confused. Does that make sense? It's like, I feel like Zoro doesn't know exactly what he's doing here. What? Alright. This is just embarrassing, man. If you're a Zoro fan, you probably just want to, like, tuck this episode away deep in some sort of, like, hidden vault or something and just throw away the key. Just having Luffy joke about a character that he low diffed while Zoro's fighting, like, you want a hand? Zoro should take the hand. The effective thing that should happen right here, Luffy should just step in, one-shot Lucci while Kizaru's out of the picture. Then Luffy and Zoro together can low diff Kizaru, right? The two of them tag teaming. That would be nice and easy, right? Zoro being stubborn right here is fucking stupid. Because it's like, you got King of Hell mode on, according to the anime, and you're not low diffing him. So just let Luffy step in, make it easier, and then the two of you can take on Kizaru. This is embarrassing shit. Embarrassing stuff. Oh no, it's starting already. The Huff Huff. It's begun. The flames are off. The Huff Huff is on. He has transitioned fully to King of Huff Huff. Oh, two Kings of Huff Huff. Oh, the flames are back. All right, let's. Oh no! Now there's no excuse. Don't expect a chance to go up against our captain. He already fought the captain and lost. So like, what's the point of the shit talk? Oh no! The flames and the lightning are on. They're both on. Everything's on. What's he missing? What's he supposed to have? What's he missing? Someone tell me what he's missing. What's our excuse here? Do we have an excuse? There's no excuse. There's no excuse. No, there's no excuse. Oh no. It's just happening. Oh shit, that's a cool shot. That's really cool. I like that. I like the rainbow effect they did for him. Or whatever it kind of that was cool. This is cool. They're showing like the full electromagnetic or the whole light spectrum or whatever the fuck with Kizaru. That's awesome. I like that a lot. I wish I was fucking high right now. Oh, this is sick. Oh, this is sick. This is awesome. I like the anime coming up with its own gag things too for Luffy to fight like that's awesome. That fight scene was really good. That was really I'm gonna be rewatching that one. That was so creative the way they did that whole thing. I'll save a lot of my thoughts for after the episode ends. This is really cool. I think in the manga, some people felt like it was I don't think people dislike Luffy versus Kizaru, but I think that it didn't quite. I don't think it lived up to expectations that a lot of people had in terms of excitement leading up to it. Because there was only really about 2/3 of a chapter devoted to it, I think, and then after that, most of it is off screen. But this was, I think, if you're an anime fan and you were looking forward to this fight, I think it delivered like 11 out of 10. It felt like a really cool way to see their abilities interact. Doesn't Luffy swallow a laser here? Yeah. Oh shit. I do kind of want to see the preview of the next episode. Did I miss it already? Did I skip it? When did the previews happen? Is it at the end of the song? Okay, hold on, hold on. All right. Does this happen next chapter? Okay, I don't want to I don't want to see uh I don't. Does the preview show how Saturn arrives? I don't want to get spoiled on the. I'm gonna stop watching this. I'll probably react to this one too. Oh shit! That was awesome. That was a phenomenal fight scene. That was a phenomenal fight scene. Damn. I really loved how they did that. Really, really loved how they did that. It felt very fantastical, and it felt like the manga or not the manga, the anime perfectly captured the difficulty of fighting Kizaru, even if because Luffy at this point should have more just straight up raw direct power, right? I really like how it captured why that's not an easy automatic solution to being above Kizaru, because Kizaru's it really emphasized just how powerful his devil fruit is and how versatile his devil fruit is, even up against like something like Luffy's. Uh yeah, that was really really cool. That was really cool. It just felt like it made perfect sense why like I feel like the manga it kind of avoided showing a little bit like how does Luffy's Conqueror's Haki and stuff interact with clashing with Kizaru. But in the anime, it felt more clear that like against someone like Kizaru, Luffy's just not gonna get a straight hit in like direct. Like you're not gonna be clashing like that. And I don't know, just everything. It felt like it flowed perfectly. I feel like their personalities really shone through. Again, this is not that. It's taking what the manga already did, right? But it's just making it way more. It's scaling everything up to just showcase how what a crazy conceptual battle of abilities this is. Really, really, really enjoyed that, and I liked what the anime came up with in terms of turning Luffy giant again, and then having him like blow out air like a balloon to blow back the clones and everything like that. Because I think one of the biggest things with Gear 5 is it's important to avoid like to stick with the concept of Gear 5th. Like you should try to keep including new gags as frequently as possible as ways to fight. And I like that the anime was able to come up with something that felt in tune with a new, like it was a new gag. Like we've never seen Luffy really just use like a cartoon like balloon deflating wind like wind blast to send his enemies back or anything like that. But it felt perfectly in tune with Gear 5th. It felt like a good counter to what Kizaru was doing at the moment. It was a nice way to flesh out that section of the fight with Kizaru's clones, because that was like a cool moment in the Luffy Kizaru fight in the manga as well. That was just really sick. That was really sick. I love the colors that they picked, the visuals. Kizaru's actually, I think I really underestimated just how well the anime can like capitalize on the laser light show aspect of Kizaru's fighting powers to really make everything really just really poppy, really vibrant, and just have a lot of like flash and flare, obviously. Yeah, that was sick. I really like that. That was awesome. That was awesome. I think that this I feel already fulfilled on the because I think with the manga one of the things was it felt like the Luffy Kizaru fight was short. So this chapter, when it came out in the manga, it felt like a good start to the Luffy Kizaru fight, because it was like, oh, it's so cool to see how their abilities interact. And they had some cool moments, Luffy eating the laser, Luffy doing the Dawn stamp or whip or whatever, basically, Kizaru using clones, things like that. It felt like a nice start. And then after that, we kind of realized that wasn't the start. That was just all we're going to get of the fight. And then the next time we really tune in is when Luffy's landing his finisher on Kizaru. So I think people were happy when I remember people thought it was cool when this chapter came out. I think it was kind of a little deflating to realize that was just all we got, that one chapter. But in the anime, I actually feel like they expanded the fight so much without really changing it too much, but they expanded how much we're getting out of it so much that I wouldn't feel disappointed at all if this was the meat of the Luffy Kizaru fight. Like if that sequence was pretty much them going all out and that's what we're going to get, and then cut away till Luffy does the White Star Gun again, that's totally fine, honestly, to me. I thought that was really, really sick. I thought this episode really, really delivered. Black Lightning, thanks for the 10. Can you react to the Shad X video on the Luffy fight? We need some clips from you. The Shad X video. Shad X video? Shad X Luffy Kizaru? No. I didn't know who you were referring to, but it's a 20-minute video talking about Luffy Kizaru. The truth, I don't know. The last thing I want right now is to rehash Luffy versus Kizaru debates. I really enjoyed how the anime did it here, but yeah, that's that. I don't want to rehash the whole concept of Luffy versus Kizaru. Let's get this. I don't think the anime changed much of the tone, like much of the who's stronger aspect of it at all. I think it was still a good showcase both ways. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Fake Lens is compared with the chapter. It's way better than the chapter. Not that the chapter was bad. I thought that this chapter was good. Like, it was a cool showcase of their abilities. Like, the chapter was good. I don't mean to say the chapter was bad. I liked the chapter when it came out. I think it felt a little less exciting in retrospect when we realized that chapter, which many of us thought was just the beginning of Luffy versus Kizaru, it turned out that chapter was pretty much all the focus Oda was really going to give to Luffy versus Kizaru. The next time we really cut back to it was just Luffy landing White Star Gun on him. So I think in retrospect, that chapter didn't live quite up to people's excitement for the fight when we realized that that's pretty much all we're getting. But the anime, I'd say, is different in that it kept things generally the same as the chapter, but it just was such a more vibrant and fleshed out sequence. And it really felt like we got a pretty extensive back and forth of their abilities, a pretty extensive display of their abilities, visually really fluid and really just visually very mesmerizing. I think the way they depicted Kizaru's light, even from the very get-go, I knew that I could tell that it was they've got some creative ideas for it. When they're showing Kizaru being knocked towards the ocean and the sort of visual effect that's the visual trail that he's leaving behind him as he's being knocked toward or thrown towards the ocean is like the full light spectrum, right? Like all the colors, they didn't just keep it yellow. I thought that right off the bat it was like, okay, they're really thinking about how to make this a very imaginative sequence, and it delivered. Like the shot of all the lights surrounding Luffy, and it's very bright for him and everything, and just all the stars kind of twinkling around him. The way that they depicted the clones and the fluidity of how all the clones moved and everything. It was just a really cool fight. Isis1155, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Lakers Wolves and how Luka plays no D. Man, I didn't watch the last Lakers Wolves game, so I can only go by what I sort of read and heard about it afterwards. Let me respond to this real quick, and then because I don't want to trail off too much into basketball, but I'll address it real quick. Fake Lind, thank you very much for gifting 10 memberships. I hope you enjoyed the episode, man. Thank you so much for the support. You can be the real Linskoff in my heart to some degree, but obviously real Linskoff is also the real Linskoff in my heart, so it's complicated. To some degree, you're both real. The real Linskoff. But thanks for gifting the membership. Seriously, thanks so much, man. And everybody in chat, say thanks, because this is a pretty big membership bomb. Mason Fuller, Bailey Will Banks, Count Docula, Mia Luca, Najia Bede, Turbu, Matt DeCaro, Loop, Dream Hoops, Pizza. Everybody just say thanks to Fake Lind. People in chat just shouts to Fake Lind because, people who come through and are happy to gift memberships to other people in chat is obviously really nice because it just gets more people abilities to have membership access. Feel free to use your new emotes. And then one day maybe it could be you who ends up getting winning the membership lottery. What was the other thing I was thinking of? Yeah, if you're a member now, also feel free to check out the Yonko Tier podcasts, because that's where It's the podcast that I drop every Tuesday alongside each video with extended thoughts that did not make the video itself. Especially for tomorrow's video, it's going to have a lot of extended thoughts in the Yonka podcast. So new members, make sure to check that out. Thank you, Fake Lind. I don't want to trail to, like, maybe if we get a little bit later in the stream, I can talk about NBA a little bit, but we just finished the episode, so I'd rather talk about that. Yeah, I feel like, just the long and short of it is very disappointed about Lakers Timberwolves, but at the same time, it's also a reality check in that if they're down like this to the Timberwolves, who are a good team, obviously, I just don't think they're probably at the caliber of, I imagine, might be proven wrong, which would be cool, but I imagine they're not at the caliber of the Celtics or the Thunder. Then if the Lakers are down to them like this, then they probably just weren't destined to make it this year. Luka is a complicated situation because it's just like, he should just be, I don't even know about the defense. It's just the conditioning is a real thing. Like, the things that I was reading and hearing about the end part of the game, it sounded like Luka was really gassed at the end, like he always fucking is. Not always, that's not fair to say, but it's just, he should just be in better conditioning. He just should. Like, it's because it's if your ability is to be maybe the best player in the NBA, maybe, like, that's your ceiling, and the only thing holding you back is, like, you just don't want to get better at the one thing that, like some players have the limitation that, you know, they're just not athletic enough or not big enough, or there's just some aspect of them that they just straight up can't change, and that's never going to be, like, they're never just going to become the number one player, right? Luka doesn't have that. He has all the tools. He just needs to be better at some effort parts, like defense, and fucking, like, just up the conditioning, right? Be in better shape. He's a fucking professional athlete. Like, it's just frustrating that the ceiling is right there and he doesn't fix it. Like, Anthony Davis not hitting his ceiling regularly, that's not really on him. He can't change the fact that he's injury prone. He can't change the fact that he has hot shooting nights and not hot shooting nights, and some of his success is matchup dependent. But Anthony Davis has now been swapped for Luka Doncic, who has everything he would need to be maybe the best player in the world, right? Or at least consistently top 2, right? And he just doesn't do it because he's good enough to already be very successful, but not the best, without putting in that extra layer of effort. My only hope is that this offseason, he, like, working with LeBron and seeing how hard LeBron at 40 tries to keep up his work ethic and his body and his conditioning and everything like that. Maybe we could see the best version of Luka possible next year, and then they get a center and everything, and maybe that's the year that they can really make a run at it, assuming LeBron himself doesn't physically fall off, because, like, it's just borrowed time at this point. Any year LeBron could just become like a shell of himself, like any year. So, or he could suffer some injury or something that would end his career at this point. So that's frustrating. That's all I got to say. All right, continuing on. Andrew Anami says this team ain't built like a glove for Luka like last year's Mavs was. Yeah, but the tricky thing is that it's just like, it doesn't need to be built like a glove necessarily when you've got like LeBron as your number 2 and like Austin Reeves as your number 3, you know? Justin Holland, thanks for the 10-min chat. 10-min chat. 10-min chat. Are you scheduled for today? Didn't we talk last week? I don't have you scheduled for today as far as I see. Let me double check. I don't see you scheduled for today, man. We did talk. We had our call last week, so I'm sorry if there was a miscommunication. But I don't have you scheduled for today. Oh, I do see a notification. I was supposed to answer 80 Wolf from last stream. Is 80 Wolf here? I was supposed to answer that. 80 Wolf had a question to close last stream that I did not answer. I forgot about that. I do have a notification for that, so let me make sure I do that. Hold on. Let me get 80 Wolf's comment. Real quick. AD Wolf, if you're here, I'll also post this comment on the stream itself. The one who will teach Luffy how to fight the Immortals, Emu, Five Elders, and God's Knights is the man who learned the taboos of the world, Roxy Zebek. I know I'm going out of my way, but it's a hunch. I don't know about that, man. I don't think Rox is still alive. I think I'm on the train of Rox is not alive. I think it's entirely possible that theory that's become a little more popular recently that like maybe Luffy, like Dragon is Rox's son. That's a theory that's interesting. That could be cool. But I don't think that Rox is alive right now. What are people arguing about now? Are people arguing about the Kizaru situation? I don't want to get into this. I really don't want to get into this. I no longer have the the I just don't have the passion for arguing the Luffy Kizaru situation at this point. I just don't care. I don't think Kizaru slams Kaido. I'll say that. If you want to argue the Kizaru Luffy situation for however long, that's whatever. I don't think Kizaru slams Kaido. It's not worth discussing or getting into too much. That Beck Panda says, I just want you to know the anime didn't make up Advanced Conquerors Haki Zoro versus Lucci. So I know that the manga had the King of Hell fire, right? Or it had some stuff around Zoro's swords, right? The digital coloring will probably help a little bit here. I think the debate that came out from that then became, okay, if Zoro's got that stuff on his swords, how much of that, like, is that Advanced Conquerors Haki or not? What does that mean, right? The finishing move Zoro used on Lucci had, like, a lot of Black Lightning, so that's something that you can hang your hat on, which is, like, that's what indicates the Advanced Conquerors Haki. But then the other question is, I don't think there was a lot of Black Lightning in Zoro's early encounters with Lucci in the manga that I can recall. Where it becomes complicated then becomes, okay, well, what's the fire things then if it's not a product of Zoro's Advanced Conquerors Haki? Fair discussions. My take on Luffy versus Kizaru, the last thing I'll say is that I think there's a big difference, same as we saw in the Kaido fight. I think there's a fairly big difference when Luffy, like, acts more, like, decides to really be, like, when he gets really angry in Gear 5th, I think we see a different, much more aggressive version of Luffy than we see in, like, I think the reality is that Gear 5th, like, the Zoan fruit affects his personality and makes him ha hee hee having fun. But then the most effective version of Luffy, as we saw at the end of Luffy versus Kaido, and as we saw at the end of, like, when Luffy took on Kizaru and Saturn at the same time, when Luffy actually gets angry in Gear 5th, that's when it becomes, like, the most dangerous. That's when he basically just, like, abuses Gear 5th's power to just completely overpower people. That's my thought. I don't know. It's not... If you disagree, I don't think I feel passionate enough about that particular point of debate anymore, because I think it's also something that I kind of want to wait and see a bit more of Luffy's fights in Gear 5th. Because they're really hard to tell. Because, like, Luffy fucking took a couple chapters to put down Lucci, even. And he should have been able to do that a lot easier. I do believe that Gear 5th makes it so that he ends up fighting to the level of his opponent to some degree a lot, because it puts him in such a good mood. I think the two times that we've seen him get actually really angry against an opponent, which was the end of the Kaido fight, and after Kizaru stabbed Vegapunk, and then Luffy grabbed Kizaru and Saturn, I think the only small sample size, that's all I'm saying. The two times that we saw Luffy get really pissed with Gear 5th, he pretty much ended the fight right after that. That's my only thought. I would like to see more of a sample size to see if this is just something that seems surface level or something that's going to continue to be a pattern. I do believe that Gear 5th does make Luffy fight to some degree to the level of his opponent when Luffy's in ha ha hee hee mode, because it affects his personality to screw around more than he otherwise would. Fake Lind, thanks for the 10. Hi, Lorge. After 15 months as a Pirate King member, seeing all the pods, this one is my favorite. It inspired me to make my first video, One Piece versus Attack on Titan. The Sea's hidden meaning. Would love to hear your thoughts about it if you ever check it out. Hey, man, feel free, honestly, to throw out your channel and promote it or whatever. Obviously, you've been a supporter of this channel for so long. I'd be happy to shout out whatever your channel is. For those of you who are interested, for the latest Pirate King podcast, it was one of the primary questions was centered around, like, how do you start a YouTube channel in this day and age from scratch, / how do you start streaming in this day and age from scratch, and what are key things that you need to try and look at and make sure are tight for you to succeed. So if you guys are interested in that, obviously check out the latest Pirate King podcast. It's available for all Pirate King members. It's the one that came out a few weeks ago, basically. YouTubers can't even agree on Robin having hockey, lol. I don't think Robin has armament hockey, right? I didn't know that's a point of debate. Andrew Nami says, arguing One Piece scaling isn't fun at all when you can't even tell when a character is using certain techniques or not, along with the ambiguity of whether the character is actually going all out, lol. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like Oda just really loves so many of his characters. He loves so many of his characters that it's like, I feel like he almost does not want to make a lot of his characters look bad, even against one another. So he is generally going to write in certain stipulations or handicaps so many times rather than just have like something really cut and dry. Like the few times that we've actually had a top tier fight all out against a top tier for a long period of time, it's like Akainu Aokiji, and Oda made it clear, well, that went 10 days, though, and there was a clear winner, but it took 10 days for there to be a clear winner there, right? So it's even then, it's like he doesn't even want to make anyone look bad in that situation. And then so many other fights that happen, like Kaido Big Mom, that went inconclusive, right? Kaido Luffy, right? Oda made sure that there was so many other circumstances and shit that happened to both of them over the course of that fight. And he made clear Gear 5th stamina issues and things like that, that it doesn't necessarily say concretely, like, what are we supposed to think of Kaido strength-wise by the end of that? You could view it in a really negative light or a really positive light, like Kaido went through all that and still put up that much of a fight. Or you could be like, we don't need to go down that whole route, right? Like, Big Mom, when she lost a kid in Law, right? There's so many circumstances that went into that. And then even just straight up 1v1s, right? No, not even straight up. Like Aokiji and Garp. Like, Oda really, really likes Garp. So even though Garp has to lose at a Hachinosu, Oda's going to go out of his way to have Garp get handicapped a million times throughout that fight and have it be a team effort taking him down. But at the same time, Oda likes Aokiji. So Oda's also going to establish early on that Aokiji doesn't feel good about fighting Garp, right? It's fucking like when Luffy Kizaru, same thing. Like Kizaru doesn't feel good having to go kill Vegapunk, right? When is the time that we're getting just a pure, clear, decisive, this character beats that character? I could even argue Law Blackbeard. Blackbeard is likely, almost definitely, Blackbeard is definitely supposed to be stronger than Law. But even then, Oda made sure to set things up like Law was the one who was disadvantaged in that situation, in that Blackbeard jumped Law with all of his, with several of his officers. So you could very much make the argument. I'm not even a Law fan, and I try and downplay Law a lot, quite a bit in power scaling debates, as you all know. You could definitely make the argument that, just based on what we saw, the fact that Blackbeard had a lot of help in that fight, much more help than Law did, because Law's subordinates are significant, they're nowhere near Yonko officers or anything. You could make the argument that because it was an ambush, and Law had to fend off multiple Blackbeard pirates, Blackbeard pirate officers at the same time, that, if it was a straight 1v1, Law could have done way better, right? That's a totally fair argument for Law. That's the thing, Oda doesn't want to... The only character that Oda straight up made look bad as of late is Kid, which is why it almost stands out even more that the whole Kid Shanks situation, because that sort of shit doesn't really happen in One Piece, where if it's a character that Oda likes, he's generally not just gonna black and white have them just straight up lose like that. Like there's going to be always some sort of out in terms of discussion. Like Green Bull, you can tell Oda doesn't give a shit about Green Bull because he had Green Bull be humiliated in his very first scene, right? In his very first scene. Oda's not doing that shit to Kizaru. He's not doing that to Aokiji or Akainu or anything like that. It happened to Green Bull. Like Fujitora, same thing. Similarly, like Green Bull and Fujitora, when they fought the Revolutionary Army commanders, this is like such a... Here, let me pull up this panel. Like this is such a classic Oda way of writing these sort of scenarios that keep people, for better or worse, forever having these debates. Let me pull this shit up. So like here we go. I'm gonna have to put hold on. Is this working again? Is the normal camera working again? No. What is this? How do I do this? Okay, so first thing I'm doing here, I gotta edit this to change the opacity back to 100. And then, give me a second here. Then I gotta add in the other video. Yeah, all right. Here we go. All right. There we go. Okay, so look at this, right? This is classic Oda shit in terms of how he wants to do the scaling. Is it the previous... where do we have the... Where's the chapter where it's... maybe it's the previous chapter. Might be the previous chapter. The truth of the... Okay, here we go. So, like... You got Karasu and Morley fighting against the admirals, right? Karasu fighting admirals. Morley fighting admirals. And then outside, right? Here's what's happening outside. Two admirals. If this weren't the land of the gods, they could wipe the map clean between the two of them. Okay. The revolutionaries are putting up a good fight, handicap or not. Right? So it's basically a scenario where it's essentially establishing that the admirals are having to hold back and would beat the revolutionary army commanders if they weren't having to hold back. However, and like, that should have been clear to people beforehand too, but Oda is essentially confirming this, which is that the admirals are having to hold back, but keep in mind, this is supposed to be understood to also be a good showing for the revolutionaries because they're still putting up a good fight, even considering the handicap. We should still, the reader, understand that it's impressive that they're holding up well against the admirals, okay? That's like Oda's style of scaling, wherein he doesn't want to make characters look bad at the end of the day. So even when it should be characters where there's like a clear gap, like the admirals are supposed to be above Revolutionary Army commanders, right? Even then, Oda doesn't just want to outright like showcase the Revolutionary commanders like being pushed back or whatever. What he showcases instead, like just at face value, it looks like a fucking even fight. But Oda also has to be like, but at the end of the day, the admirals are supposed to be stronger, so let me clarify that they're supposed to be stronger, but I don't want to make the Revolutionary Army commanders look bad, so it's going to be an even fight, and we'll just say the admirals are handicapped or whatever. Like, even when, like, there's a clear gap, he's not going to make it seem like there's a clear gap lots of times, and then that makes it so that when there's characters that are, like, both top tier or something, then there's going to be even more excuses or something. Like, this should be a clear cut and dry situation where the admirals are just shown to be stronger. But Oda writes in a handicap. He clarifies that to make sure that the reader understands that there's a handicap, but he also establishes that it's still cool. Like, this is not a bad show. This is a good showing for the Revolutionary Commanders. He just doesn't want to have characters lose. He doesn't want to have characters he likes look bad. It makes it fucking difficult to understand how things are supposed to be. It just makes it difficult. He doesn't want he doesn't want any character to get humiliated, basically. It's just the way it is. Unless he legitimately doesn't seem to care for the character. Continuing on. JWP, thanks for the 5. I feel like Gear 5th Luffy is pretty much just immune to Devil Fruit attacks now. Maybe not immune, but they can't just put him down. Thoughts? I don't know if I agree with that. Like, immune to devil fruit attacks? Like, I feel like Kizaru's sword, for example, cut him. Right? It cut him a little bit. I imagine Kizaru's sword could do some serious damage if Kizaru got in a good hit. Um, Luffy was able to swallow the laser, but I feel like, if Akainu hit him with a magma punch or something, that would affect him. If you're saying just the devil fruit, like if there was no Haki involved, that becomes its own whole discussion, because it's like how much of Kizaru's sword is like him versus how much is Haki and everything like that. If Akainu lands a magma punch, how much is Akainu versus how much is it just magma? Like Haki, how much Haki plus magma, stuff like that. We did see that that Kaido's magma dragon form did burn Luffy a bit, but Luffy coats himself with Haki, so it doesn't affect him anymore. So I guess if you're saying like Gear 5th Luffy with like a bunch of Haki, that can prevent him from being affected by any devil fruit. I could see that being the case. Justin, thanks for the 2-man. When is the next happy hour stream? I'm most likely going to schedule that for either next Wednesday or Thursday. I have to see what makes the most sense schedule-wise, because next week's the next no chapter week. So I'm going to schedule it for next Wednesday or Thursday or possibly Tuesday, and I'll send out the blast for that. Probably tomorrow the blast for that will be sent out. But I do have to decide which day makes the most sense for that. Because normally I've done the happy hours for everybody on Wednesdays, but next Wednesday is a little difficult for me. So I'm going to see if either I can make it work next Wednesday or do it next Thursday instead. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. Oda does make fights ambiguous on who is stronger, but there are usually subtle hints on who is stronger in the fight. So the tricky part is, like, I think everyone is always convinced, myself included, that, like, Oda makes it ambiguous. I think everybody kind of has their person that they prefer to feel like won the fight. And because Oda has left doors open, avenues to make arguments, people become certain that their guy is the one who Oda was clearly, oh so clearly making obvious, was definitely stronger. So when you say Oda, he makes it ambiguous, but leaves subtle hints that make it obvious as to who's stronger, you can say that, but the reality of the situation is that people have their favorites, and they have their preconceived feelings as to who should be stronger or what the fight is supposed to show. And as soon as Oda leaves the door open for any route for interpretation, those subtle hints that make things clear are in fact completely they're points of spin where anybody can take him and grab him and spin him and be like, this is so obvious that Oda's saying this person is stronger, that person's stronger. Like, again, I've talked about this to death. I feel like Oda made things as clear as possible that Garp was stronger than even Aokiji at the Hachinosu raid. Hence why, like, I don't want to even go into all of the details of it, right? I think he made it very clear that he's stronger at the end of the day during the raid, and I felt like even after the raid, in the post-game discussion, essentially, amongst the Blackbeard Pirates and Aokiji and everything, they were talking about it, and it was made clear again that Garp is too much for any individual one of them to handle on their own. I thought that was very clear. Some people felt like they felt going into it that Aokiji is stronger, and so they held on to other stuff that they say negates everything else, and just that's the correct subtle hint that Oda's leaving that proves Aokiji strong. Like, people will pick the points of ambiguity that they prefer and basically say this means everything, and the other points of ambiguity mean nothing. The other handicaps mean nothing, right? Like, they will hold on to what they say is the thing that matters the most. That's why I'm kind of pulling up this example, right? This is an example of, like, this is how far Oda basically needs to go to make it clear that, like, which side is stronger when he's leaving these points of ambiguity open, right? Like, this explanation, the revolutionaries are putting up a good fight, handicap or not, right? So it's establishing there is a handicap. And this is establishing that this fight would go differently in the Admiral's favor if there were not a handicap. This is Oda making his intent clear, right? If Oda had not put in this speech bubble, then we have very different conversations right here. Let's say he didn't put in this speech bubble, and let's say it was just this. If this weren't the land of the gods, they could wipe the map clean. I think even leaving this level of ambiguity would lead to a lot of people arguing that it's the revolutionaries are very, very close, or like capable of going toe to toe with the two admirals. I think Oda, this is one of the rare cases where Oda is going to go out of his way to straight up say these characters are more handicapped and the result would be different if this handicap did not exist. Like, if Oda did shit like this more frequently, then we would have less of these sort of debates. But he doesn't. That's just the way it is. That's just his preference in terms of style, because I don't think he likes making characters that he likes look bad. Bane, thanks for the 5. Morj, we need Luffy versus Kizaru breakdown analysis video. Admiral fans still keep saying Kizaru beat Luffy or Luffy lost in Egghead lol. I'm just not. I'm not getting into it. No, I'm just not. There were so many times that I had that debate with you guys, with Chad, etc., over the course of like the Egghead arc, even post Egghead arc. Now we are nicely in the flow of Elbaf. We will get more fights. We will get more action. We will get more matchups. We'll get more things. We will get to let's let the past be the past. Let's let the past be the past. I have no enemies. I don't want to discuss that. I don't want to discuss that. The Loman says Aokiji was just being humble. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's just like you can just like Aokiji was just being humble. It's like, well, we could argue a million different ways about, all right, give me your 5-page analysis on why Aokiji was being humble right there. What was the clear, or what was the subtle hint that Oda dropped in that chapter that Aokiji decided to be humble right there in that moment? What was the subtle hint that Aokiji was deciding to be humble? How are you gleaning from Aokiji's statement that was him being humble? And I'm sure you could come up with something. I'm sure you could. I feel like using the word headcanon is insulting. I'm sure you could come up with some argument as to why, if you read in between the lines that don't exist and between those lines, and then use a microscope even further in between those lines, and then use some invisible ink or something, I'm sure you could find why it's clear that Aokiji was just being humble, and it's not just Oda establishing a statement of fact for the reader. I'm sure there's some reason, right, that you could come up with. I'm not interested in getting into that shit anymore. The past is the past. Let's leave it for the moment. I'm sure on a different day you could probably get me to go off on a rant about it again, but I just don't feel like it today. I enjoyed the fight that we got just now. I think I'm just enjoying that. All right. I'm being rage baited. I think I'm just too easily rage baited. All right. All right, everybody. It is coming up on that time. I really like this episode. I think that I kind of want to let me take a quick peek at like what's going on in the next several chapters. Because we're probably pretty soon getting like I feel like we could just cover like 1090 something probably. 1091 maybe? Or did we cover this? What did we cover? Yeah, okay, so last chapter was this. Okay, and then coming up is 1094. I'm going to skip ahead to 1095 a little bit. Okay, so we're actually really getting to the flow here. And it's been adapting one chapter per episode, right? So I'll at least react to next episode. I may, and I'll probably react to some God Valley episodes or something. I don't think each one, but I definitely think I'll be doing some more episode reactions. I really enjoyed this episode. It was a phenomenal episode. Beautiful action sequence. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 5. Say what you want about all the OG3 admirals we've seen recently were having inner turmoil. I agree. I agree that they were all not happy about what's going on, what they're having to do to some degree. Yeah, I think I'll react to another What do you call? I think I'll react to next week's episode as well. It looks exciting. I'm not gonna say I'm just gonna react to every week's episode. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I could definitely do next week's episode. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. This was a fun stream. And yeah, watch out for tomorrow's video. I think it's a good one. And yeah, with that, I will talk to you all later. Let's wait for this next week's chapter. All right, thanks.